We'll get started just here in just a minute. Just want to make sure everybody has time to join us. Thanks everyone for being here today. And for those of you who will see the recording later on. All right, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Excuse me, my voice is shot today. I'm getting over COVID, and I actually had it 2 weeks ago, but I'm still not feeling 100%. But again, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. I know you're already in the busy schedule of classes, so I appreciate you making the time for this. Hold on, I'm just trying to fix my view here so I can see all of you. All right. So welcome to CSU, everybody. Before we get started, I think I'll go ahead and say, to make sure we don't end up having any of you participate in this presentation that don't actually need to be here. So I want to explain first what exactly, how we define a sponsored student for the purposes of this presentation. And the way that works is if you have a scholarship through CSU or if you have a scholarship where you're just receiving the funding directly and CSU won't be involved with billing your sponsor, you don't need to be here. But if CSU is going to be billing your sponsor directly for your tuition and fees, then definitely stick around, because what we're going to talk about today applies to you. And so mostly we're going to be talking about how CSU manages your scholarship, how we communicate with your sponsors, your responsibilities in connection with to your sponsor and with CSU, because you automatically are going to have some different expectations as a sponsored student. So that kind of gives you an out. If you think maybe you probably don't need to be here, I understand. You're welcome to pop out. But for all of you where we're billing sponsors directly, please stick around for this discussion. And I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. I know you're all busy. So my name's Christy Eiler. I am the primary liaison working with you all and with the sponsors that you are here under their support. I also partner with Asil Ahmad, who works in accounts receivable. And then I have another colleague, Ing Cheng, who works at Place and also helps with our efforts to support sponsored students. So you may be communicating with all three of us in connection with your sponsorship during the time that you're here. So as a sponsored student, there are different expectations for you in terms of your performance and in terms of CSU as far as reporting and communication with your sponsors. So oftentimes that means I will receive outreach from your sponsor or maybe even your academic advisor, where I would need to provide information about your performance at CSU or the classes that you're registered in and things like that. So that's a big part of what we do. And then just making sure that your sponsors are being billed properly, that you're waived for insurance if you need to be. That's kind of what we do for all of you as sponsored students. But we need your help in order to be successful with that. So that means you need to be accountable for your scholarship. We will let you know when your funding letters are expired, but you'll be responsible for making sure to get those new sponsor letters to us so that we can bill your sponsor and not have you accumulate late fees or end up with holds on your account. And then of course we know that you're under specific expectations with your scholarship as well. And of course we need you to hold yourself accountable in that way. I'll just let you know, since I am one of the primary folks that you would work with for sponsorship questions, I'm the advisor that does open advising every other Wednesday. So you're welcome to email me to see if I'm going to be on if you're thinking of popping in on a Wednesday. You can also schedule an appointment with me. And I do have appointments every Monday available. So either of those ways of connecting with me specifically about sponsored issues are an option for you. If you're just wanting regular international student advising, that's maybe not specific to your sponsorship, I've listed the hours for our open advising, which is offered both remote and in person. All of our advisors also hold appointment times, so those are offered Monday through Thursday. And then there's a link there that you can access if you want to go on to remote open advising, or if you wanted to schedule an appointment with one of us. And I am so sorry that my voice is going out here. So one thing I wanted to make you aware of is that some of you are going to have immigration documents that may have been issued by your sponsors. Those are almost always going to be, those are DS 2019. And if your DS 2019 was issued by your sponsor, that would be like Fulbright students or some other sponsors that we work with, then our advisors are happy to answer general immigration questions for you, but we're not actually able to make any changes to your immigration documents. So you want to be sure to be in contact with your sponsor for adding dependents or making any kinds of changes. Most of you are here on CSU documents, however, so that means that we can fully support you in terms of managing your immigration status, and certainly reach out to you if there are changes with your major, or you need to bring dependents or different things like that. All of you as sponsored students should have, or hopefully will soon if you haven't already done the immigration document review or the check-in process through your World RAMS account, will have to fill out a Ferpa waiver. And that is what gives our office and CSU permission to communicate with your sponsors regarding your status here at CSU, whether that be your academic status, if you're facing some sort of personal struggle that's impacting your life as a student. That's just giving us that communication, permission for communication, so that we can properly support you and your sponsor during your time. So that's critical that you fill out those waivers. There's a separate waiver that you will do that's more related to the billing of your tuition and fees to your sponsor. And that's going to be a form that you should all soon, if you haven't already, received an email about asking you to authorize your sponsor in RAMWeb. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to go to the billing information in RAMWeb and then authorize sponsor. And basically when you do that, you're again giving the accounts receivable office permission to communicate with your sponsors regarding your bills, and also acknowledging that if for any reason your sponsor doesn't end up paying for your tuition and fees, it would be your responsibility to cover those costs. I like to talk about plans of study. Some of your sponsors probably require you to do that. But I recommend that all of you meet with your academic advisor as soon as possible to lay out your plan for the entirety of your time here. I know that oftentimes your scholarship is limited, so you really need to have a tight plan in place to make sure that you graduate before your scholarship expires. So it's really a good idea, whether your sponsor requires it or not, to sit down with your academic advisor and map out your courses during your time here to get you on track to graduate when you need to. That is even more important for some of you all that are in majors such as engineering or computer science, and I think even College of Business. There may be others as well, where there are a lot of sequenced courses, meaning that you can't take one course until you've taken the prerequisite for that course. And often those required courses that you need to do in succession are offered every term. So if you miss one of those, it can put you off by a year for graduation. So really important to get that planned out so you don't fall into that trap that postpones your graduation by a large amount. I mentioned this before, but the whole purpose of the waiver form that you're going to fill out is to give us permission to communicate with your sponsors. And they reach out to us all the time to find out, you know, how you're doing in your courses and if you're taking courses that are actually moving you towards your major. And we send out your grades at the end of every term so that your sponsors see how you're doing and progressing. And, you know, we get all kinds of various requests and communications from sponsors, and I just want to be open with you so that you know that that's happening, and that's why we have you sign that waiver. Another thing I'll mention is that your scholarships all have different things that are covered through your program, and oftentimes they might cover extra things that you maybe hadn't thought you would need, but you end up needing during your time here, such as tutoring, or maybe you need a special computer or something for your degree program. I always encourage you to reach out to your sponsor if you have some extra costs like that, to find out if they may be able to help you out and take full advantage of the robust scholarships that you're here on. Talk a little bit about some of the program details that maybe are a little different for you as sponsored students. First of all, employment. For J1 students, if you're going to be working on campus or off, that requires that work to be authorized through your CVIS record. So make sure you're not, as a J1, that you're not working unless that has been authorized on your DS 2019. For F1 students, you are allowed to work up to 20 hours a week on campus. But as sponsored students, we wouldn't necessarily say that means go for it, go ahead and get a job. And the reason I say that is the entity that is paying for you to get your degree at CSU may not want you to be spending time working when their primary goal for you being here is to focus on your studies. So we're not going to be monitoring your employment status to make sure that you aren't working as a sponsored student. that responsibility lies with you. If you end up getting employment on campus during your time here, you need to make sure that you're communicating that to the sponsor and getting their permission to do that. Some sponsors are fine with you working, so it isn't that you're not necessarily allowed, but make sure that you're being transparent with your sponsors about that employment if it's happening. And then, of course, if you are employed or if you have an assistantship, are receiving any U.S. income, you'll have to file an income tax return and file your taxes. In fact, all international students need to file at least the simple form for their taxes every year in April. Our office provides a free software that we'll email you about when we get to tax season that you can use to file those taxes. And then I know some of your sponsors, like with Fulbright and some programs, they will help you with filing your taxes. So just be aware of those responsibilities. Another thing I'll point out is some of you may already have family with you, or you're thinking of bringing them at some point in the future. If you do end up deciding to bring a family member, you do need to show that you have the finances available to pay for your dependents while they're here. And I know sometimes that's covered by your sponsors, but in some cases, your scholarship will only cover your expenses, and you would need to show additional money in a bank account in order to bring those family members here. I've put the link there to our website, and you can find all of the immigration forms, as well as a wealth of information on programs and lots of different things related to your time here as an international student. But that's my primary reason for putting that here now, is just to direct you to where you would find the forms for example, bringing a family member, having an I-20 or a DS-2019 issued for a family member to come here, or if you need to extend your program, that's where you would request that. If you're applying for OPT or CPT, that's where you would find those forms. So really important to know where our website is. And one other thing I will point out is that if you're going to be changing your major, I would highly recommend that you get that change approved with your sponsor before you're actually changing your major at CSU. Because as soon as your major changes, we need to update your I-20 or your DS-2019 with that new major. And if we don't have a sponsor letter for you showing that that new major is covered, it puts your immigration status in jeopardy, because you're no longer in status because you haven't shown funding for that new major. So make sure you're planning ahead with any changes like that, because it will impact your immigration status as sponsored students. So I'll mention the financial letters again, because they're very, very important in terms of your student accounts. So we need to have financial guarantees for you that are valid throughout the year. If your financial guarantee expires, then we cannot bill your sponsor for any of your tuition and fees. And it's your responsibility to make sure that we have those. And if we don't, you would be responsible for any charges on your account and any late fees that are accumulated. So very, very important to stay on top of those. And as I said earlier, we will send out emails to let you know when they're expiring, but we need you to follow up and provide those new letters for us. Another thing to point out is that we need to have written approval from your sponsor to bill them for any online or continuing education courses. Those are not going to get transferred to your sponsor unless we have been informed by the sponsor that that's okay. And an email is fine for that communication. We just have to have something in writing. So now I'm going to talk about third-party billing and how that works for your tuition and fees. So there, as a sponsored student, there are actually going to be two billing accounts associated with your bill. The first is the student account, and the second is the third-party sponsor account. The way it's going to look on your bill is you will see all of the charges go onto your account for tuition and fees. And then you'll see another line once your third-party sponsor account has been set up and the funds have been the charges have been transferred, you'll see another line item that says transferred to third-party sponsor. So I want you all to look at your accounts. We're still working on getting these all transferred for the fall semester, so give us a few weeks, but I do want you to look at your accounts and make sure that all the correct charges have been transferred to your sponsor, to the third party, and let us know if you see something that you should not be responsible for, and that should be billed to your sponsor. And then, so sponsors may not cover all your costs. I know you're aware of that. Some of the funds you may be getting directly to pay for housing and different things like that. Most sponsors don't pay directly for housing. So that is going to be your responsibility to make sure those bills get paid on time. And one thing to be aware of, if you're living in the residence halls, those charges happen all at once at the beginning of the semester. So it's not a month-to-month payment. So for this term, I believe you have to have all of those charges paid by September 8th. I think it's September 8th, to avoid any late charges. So make sure you're accounting for that and able to get those paid off to avoid any issues with your account. If you don't have the funds to pay that all up front because you're receiving a month-to-month stipend, you can reach out to Asil Ahmad, who's listed at the bottom there, and he can adjust your account so that you can pay for those housing costs on a month-to-month basis. So just send him an email and let him know that you're a sponsored student and you only receive your check once a month, and you need to get that divided up. Excuse me. Pay attention to your student accounts. Go on to RamWeb frequently to make sure you're not being charged for anything you shouldn't be, to make sure you don't have holds. That is your responsibility. We're not going to monitor your account for you. We're happy to help you if something doesn't look correct on your account, but we're not going to do it for you. Asil is probably the best person to reach out if you see a discrepancy on your account, but Ing listed here, and I can also help out with that. So health insurance, I'm sure you already heard in the regular orientation, it is mandatory for all international students and their families to have health insurance, it doesn't have to be the CSU plan. And in fact, your families would not be eligible for the CSU plan, but it should be an equivalent policy to what the CSU plan offers. A lot of you have sponsors that provide a very robust health insurance plans, and we can waive you for health insurance. We're going to be working on putting those waivers on your accounts in the next few weeks. If you know that you have a health insurance that should be waived, but it hasn't been within a couple weeks, let us know so we can look into that. Some of the sponsors that we're just going to waive automatically are like the Saudi Cultural Mission, the Kuwait sponsored students, UAE sponsored students, a lot of those Middle Eastern government scholarships have insurance that's already been reviewed and approved. If you're not sure about your insurance, feel free to reach out to me or Ing with an email to find out if we need to get your health insurance plan reviewed, or if it's one that we've already reviewed and we know that we can't waive you for. You can also, if you have questions right now, post those in the chat and I'll look at those questions as we get to the end of our presentation.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You asked about the questions.
Yeah, if you have a question now, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, first of all, my name is Rashad Suleymanlı, and I'm coming from Azerbaijan, and today I have flight. So I have just a couple of questions to you,
okay.
like, if you don't mind. So first of all, it's interesting for me. You told about that sponsored students. That I am sponsored by our government, Azerbaijan Republic, Minister of Education of Azerbaijan Republic. So the question here first about, it's about the employment. So for instance, if I am sponsored by government and I am giving the monthly allowances, in this case, can I have a chance, additionally, I can work as a research assistantship or teaching assistantship or on campus, and I have F1 visa. Is it possible?
It is possible, but like I said earlier, you need to ask your sponsor for permission. And for example, if you had an assistantship, that would eliminate your need for a scholarship. So most likely, your sponsor would just become irrelevant at that point because they would no longer be covering your tuition and fees. Now, if you're just going to work a part-time job on campus that doesn't cover all your tuition and fees, that's different and it probably wouldn't impact your scholarship at all. But I would definitely reach out in either case to your sponsor to see if they are okay with you doing that, because it's not an immigration violation for you to work, but it may be a violation of your scholarship, and you wouldn't want to jeopardize that.
Understand, but I have already asked our government, who is a sponsor, so they told me that there is no problem from our side. First is if you go find any additional sources, we don't, how to say, we don't make any mind about that. We only provide the tuition fee, allowances, and if you are able to find job here, it's okay for you, and we don't mind about that.
Okay, well, it sounds like you've already got
university
permission to work.
Is it a problem? Yeah, there's no.
No, as long as your sponsor is okay with it, it's not a problem for you to work part-time on campus.
Great. So if you don't mind, I have the second question about, you mentioned that how to paying the tuition fees as a semester based, yeah. And actually I have the financial support letter, and by starting from the approximately end of October, all our tuition fees and the must allow 10% additional late fees, yes?
You were cutting out there, Rashid. Would you mind typing your question in the chat and I'll get to it at the end?
Okay, my voice is broken.
It was breaking up. Yeah. Can we wait till the end and I'll get to your questions at that point? Would that be okay? Or do you, is
Okay.
that okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, well,
you.
we're just about to the end of the presentation here, so definitely I'll have time for questions at the end. Another thing I'll mention about health insurance is that a lot of you will still need to have the CSU health insurance plan. And so it's going to be billed to your account automatically. In some cases, like with Fulbright students, you're going to have two plans. You'll have your State Department plan and the CSU plan. And we know that we should bill Fulbright or IIE, Ahmed East, or LASPAL for your health insurance, and that will be paid for. So let us know if the health insurance charge on your account should have been billed to your sponsor, but it wasn't. Another thing I just wanted to point out is when you look at your bill, there's a difference between the health insurance charge versus the health center fee. Every student will be billed that health center fee, and that allows them to use the health insurance, the health center, regardless of what insurance coverage they have. And I encourage all of you to take advantage of that. It's a really excellent facility. They provide really good care for you. And most of what you would seek there is going to be free to you because you've paid that health center fee. And then the health insurance, like I said, is a separate charge. And not all of you would be billed for that if your sponsor is providing adequate coverage. So obviously, as sponsored students, your grades are very important. And as I said earlier, we're going to be reporting those grades to your sponsors at the end of every term. Just want to make sure you know that. Please familiarize yourself with the grading system that we have at CSU. It might be very different from what you're used to at home. So I wanted to make sure that you can all understand your transcripts to know how you're doing in your classes. I want you also to be aware of CSU's requirements for you to maintain good academic standing. So undergraduate students, you must maintain a 2.0, which is a C average, in order to maintain good academic standing at CSU. If your grade point average drops below 2.0 or that C average, you are going to be put on what's called academic probation. And from that point, you have 2 semesters to get your grade point average back up to a 2.0. If you are not able to do that, you would be academically dismissed from CSU. So it's very important that you work hard to maintain that grade point average so that you don't end up being dismissed from CSU. And your sponsors may have even higher requirements for your grade point average. So make sure you're aware of those as well. For graduate students, you need to maintain a 3.0 or a B average during your time here. And if you aren't able to do that, you will be put on academic probation and you have 1 semester to bring that GPA back above a B average or a 3.0, or you would be academically dismissed. Depending on your circumstances, those dismissals could potentially be overturned, or if your academic advisor supports you, you could petition to be allowed to continue at CSU, but that's dealt with on a case-by-case basis, and you would need to talk with your academic advisor about whether or not that's something that you could do. So again, RamWeb, such an important place for you all. That's where you're going to find your bill. That's where you're going to find your grades. That's where you register for classes. Make sure you're checking that regularly. And I just put the grade calculations here, just so you have an eye on what those are like during your time here. Really important to maintain those grade point averages in order to continue as an international student. For all of you undergraduate students, I wanted to put in a plug for a really awesome course that we have offered this fall just for international students, international undergraduate students. And it's the new student seminar, International Student Success class. This course is taught by John Hildebrand, who is one of our advisors here in the Office of International Programs. It's offered on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 11:50, and it's only for the first 8 weeks of the semester. If you do want to register for this course, make sure that you're choosing the CRN number 74403, because that's the specific section of the course that is for international students. The course is a lot of fun. You're going to learn about resources on campus. You'll talk a little bit about, go into a little bit more depth on your immigration status as an international student. You'll do some fun activities and participate in great discussion, meet other international students. All the students that we've had take this course are really, really appreciative of it. So if there's any way for you to fit this into your class schedule, I would highly recommend that you do so. You'll get a lot out of it. And one more thing that I wanted to put in a plug for is our weekend in the mountains that's going to be coming up in September. This is such a fun opportunity to go up to the mountains, the mountain campus that's associated with CSU for the weekend, get to know other international students, see the beautiful Colorado mountains, talk about culture shock, and just it's such a fun time. I highly recommend, if you're able to join us for a weekend in the mountains, please do. It is going to be held on the weekend of September 17th and 18th, and we'll be sending out more information about that trip. But we'd love to have you participate in that. It's so much fun. We get to do a campfire, and there's a talent show. It's a really, really fun time. Okay, and now I am going to open it up for questions, and I see I've got some here in the chat. Or if Osama, if you want to just put your mic on, it says you have a question. Go ahead.
I was just wondering where I can get the enrollment verification.
That would be in the registrar's office. So the registrar is located in Centennial Hall.
Okay. Thank you.
And you may even be able to print a document off from your RamWeb account. I'm not sure if your sponsor would accept the one from RamWeb or not, but if not, you can go to Centennial Hall to get that from the registrar.
Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you.
You're welcome. The class, it's 11 a.m. Does it say p.m.? Oh yeah.
Also, sorry, one more question.
It's 11 a.m. The class, the IU 172 class is 11 a.m. to 11:50 a.m. I'm so sorry.
Do we get credit for it?
Yeah, it's a 1 credit class. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yep. Sorry for that typo. Yeah, we don't hold courses that late. Sorry, I'm just reading a longer question here. The CSU health insurance does cover you for the CSU health clinic, but even above and beyond that, most of your visits to the CSU health clinic are going to be free, and so they don't even need to be covered by your insurance. Insurance would cover extra things like pharmaceuticals or any special treatment that you may need to get. So yes, your CSU health insurance does work very smoothly with the CSU Health Center. In terms of getting your health insurance, I can't really help you with that. I would recommend that you contact the CSU Health Insurance office if you're having trouble getting into the portal for your insurance and getting the documentation on your benefits. I'm sorry, I can't help with that one. Okay, that's all the questions in the chat. Does anybody else have a question they'd like to ask?
Yes, I do have a question. First of all, good afternoon, and thank you for organizing this meeting. And today I got an email saying that from this SSAG run with the USA Army, they are offering up to 150 jobs in the field such as information technology and such that. And they were saying that we could also earn money on weekends. Is that authentic or is it just a scam? I was wondering.
USAG?
No, that is SAG Dirinan with the US Army and the Army Reserves.
Yeah, that's not something that you would be able to do as an international student. I mean, it could be a scam, but either way, it's not, it wouldn't be
Yes.
something.
Yeah, and they are also promising to make payments and providing the tuition. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's correct or not.
You can't do that. Just
Sure.
delete that email.
Of course. Thank
It
you.
may be a scam. I mean, I'd have to look at it to see, but even if it's not, it's not something that you as an international student would be eligible for.
But they are saying that they work with Colorado State University and as the assigned US Army career counselor to Colorado State University. So I just wondered if it
I mean,
was
you're
correct.
welcome to send that email to me if you want to look at it, but I would just delete it if I were you.
Yeah, I myself am not interested in working, so I will give it a try or not. Okay, thank you anyway for the clarification.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Rashad, I think you might have had some more questions. Do you want to ask those now? Or does anyone else have a question?
I have written about that, about the question.
You already got the answer? Okay, great. Where can I find more information about scholarships? Like, I guess I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, Victor. Do you want to get on and you can ask the question live?
Hello, Christy. Yes, I would like to know how can I find more sponsors for a master's degree at CSU?
Yeah, I mean, at CSU, your best bet is going to be your department. Victor, do you want to send me an email? Are you familiar with the OAS scholarship?
Yes, I'm actually a OAS sponsor student.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
I'll-
so you already have that
I'll-
one. The only
Yes.
other option would probably, from CSU, would be to see if your department was able to offer you any additional funding. But beyond that, it would be outside sources that you would need to look at for any additional scholarships. Okay, Rashad, I'm seeing your question here. My question is about late payments of bills because our scholarships will be started to be paid. Yeah, I should have said that earlier. So you all are not going to be responsible for late payments as long as we have a sponsorship letter that's valid for you. What happens is when we have a sponsorship letter, we're transferring those charges to your sponsor account. So that means it's kind of been paid on your student account, so you don't end up getting late fees. We send those bills to your sponsor, and the only time it would end up coming back to you is if your sponsor doesn't pay like by the end of the semester. But sponsors don't get the late fees the same way a student account was, because it takes time to get the bills sent to them and for them to be able to send the funds back. So very different timeline with billing sponsors than with billing your student account directly. Any fees that you are responsible for, such as housing, those are the ones you want to make sure you get paid before the deadline to avoid any late charges. Does that help, Rashad?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, great.
So, Ms. Christy,
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I don't know it's about your business or not. And I have the issue about the accommodation. And I will do, because I will come tomorrow afternoon, and still I don't have accommodation. And I will make 2 weeks, 3 or 4 days with Airbnb when I come. But can you direct me to someone directly who can help in the university or the campus to help me to somewhere around? I know that there's no place on campus, but off-campus housing.
Yeah, I would start with off-campus housing. That would be the best place to get support. There's an office in the Lori Student Center called Off-Campus Student Life, and they can help you.
Yeah, in the Lori Hall?
Lori Student Center, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, any other questions before we adjourn?
So I got an email, there's another orientation September 1st. Does that sound right? Or
Another orientation. Was it an immigration session?
I'm not sure.
Did you miss the orientation that we had last week for new students?
I did. I got
Okay.
card this week.
Yeah, so you do need to attend that orientation as well, because that's going to focus more on your immigration issues.
Is that like an in-person or is it on Zoom as well?
I believe it is also in person. I'm not 100% sure though.
Okay.
Just follow the instructions that you received in that email.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, yeah. So I just typed the name of off-campus student services in the chat. Looks like there is also a post in the chat for some housing potential options that another student posted. Thank you, Anita, for that post. That's helpful. Any other questions? All right, well, I want to thank all of you again for being here. I'm really glad you're here. I'm really excited for you during your time at CSU. And I hope you find that the Office of International Programs is your home on campus. Please, please come to us if there are things that you need support on. We love working with international students and we're here to help. So good luck with your first semester. And please reach out if you need anything and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye, see you soon.
Bye. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.